welcome to Policing TV. I'm delighted, truly delighted to be joined by my Policing Insight and Policing TV colleague Ian Wiggett. Ian, thank you so much for joining us here. We're going to be talking about the Police and Crime Commissioner elections that have just taken place in England and Wales. You've been doing a fair bit of analysis on this. You've written an article that will appear very shortly on Policing Insights. And I would encourage viewers to go to Policing Insights and get chapter and verse on the results there in your article. Tell us, first of all, your impressions of the results as they came through over the weekends just gone. Some of the key findings that you've identified from those results.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we've clearly seen a lot of PCCs change party. So we've had 16. We've now got 16 brand new leads for policing across the country. That includes one Conservative and 5 mayors now that also have police responsibility for policing. Overall, I think Labour will be happy that they've done so well, but on reflection might well be disappointed that they didn't actually win a few more. And I think the Conservatives will probably be quite relieved that they didn't do as badly as they might have done. There was a very close call in Warwickshire where 261 votes separated the Conservative candidate, the sitting PCC, from the Labour candidate, and that could easily have swung the other way. And there were quite a few Conservative seats where the majority was under 3,000. So we could easily have seen Gloucestershire be retaken by Martin Searle, who was previously the independent candidate there for the independent PCC for 3 terms, I believe, 2 terms certainly, and then stood this time as a Liberal Democrat candidate, but came within, I think, about 2,000, under 2,000 of unseating the Conservative PCC. Labour overall did very well across the East Midlands. There were some very surprising results, I think, for those more used to traditional blue areas voting in favour of certainly on law and order issues. So places like Norfolk turning into a Labour hold, into a Labour PCC. Cumbria was another surprise because that's been Conservative since the outset. So that was taken by a Labour candidate who has retired 30 years police service, formerly with the National Crime Agency as well. So there were some interesting results there. They scored over 50% in several forces, including Nottinghamshire. So we saw places like Northamptonshire, Derbyshire turning to Labour, and there were some big wins where we thought there were potentially going to be quite close results in advance, but actually they turned out to be quite large Labour wins, such as Lancashire, Cheshire, Avon, and Somerset as well was potentially a surprise. So overall, I think Labour will be very happy, but might look back and say, well, maybe they could have won a few more. It's interesting how this time, of course, we didn't have the supplementary vote system. So that was there to provide a little bit of an extra mandate. It's not proportional representation, but it gives a little bit of extra sort of opportunity by taking people's second votes and being able to add them to the first votes and see how that changed. And it gives a slightly stronger mandate then. But without that system, I think probably this time we'd have seen a few more seats change hands, actually, and the Conservatives would potentially have suffered. They lost 2 seats at the last election where the supplementary vote changed the result. And I think we'd have seen a few more this time. So it certainly changes the political map. We've got a majority now. If you add in the mayors, we've got a majority of police forces now led politically by Labour. There was one Plaid Cymru PCC re-elected in David Powys as well. And so that changes the landscape, I think. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out now with the APCC. New policy portfolios will have to be reallocated, redistributed. The decision making, that there'll be a little bit more opposition, I would guess, vociferous opposition, because I'm sure Conservative PCCs were fighting the corner for policing with ministers with a direct contact, but now perhaps that opposition and debate and discussion will be out in the open more, as Labour policing leads will be more inclined perhaps to challenge the government on some of the decisions around policing and crime. So that will be interesting to see as well.
Let's look at the makeup of those police and crime commissioners. So you've already mentioned that the Conservatives lost several seats, if we can describe them as that, with Labour picking them up. What about the diversity of those that were elected? For example, do we see many more female PCCs? How's the political balance of that?
We now have 12 women PCCs in place. And I just need to check my figures to see whether that includes some of the mayors as well, because there were certainly two mayors, I believe, that have been elected that are women. 9 of the policing leads are now women from the Labour Party, and we had the 3 from the Conservative Party that were already in place in Sussex, Hampshire, and Devon and Cornwall. So I think it's an interesting point, because I think some of the Conservative PCCs that have lost their positions, and the remaining ones tended to be long-serving. That sometimes from ex-military, ex-police backgrounds, slightly older in the tooth, dare I say. There appear, just on some of the impressions, that we've got some more younger PCCs coming forward. So there seems to be a bit of a generational change there. In terms of ethnicity and diversity there, then I think we've probably got a couple of ethnic minority PCCs, but we'll have to wait and see exactly how those figures play out, because I think we haven't got any official data on that at the moment, and it's very much a first impressions look. But yeah, I think overall we've got a younger, more female PCC profile than previously, so that might change as well in some of the interests. I mean, I think some of the things we'll look at in the discuss in the article, and we'll probably see coming out over the next few weeks, is that these new PCCs are going to have to start working with chief constables that probably have been appointed by their predecessors. And you might well find that, particularly if we've got a younger, more diverse, different profile of police and crime commissioner coming forward, that the sort of priorities that the force and the chief constable were working on are no longer the priorities that the PCC might have foremost. And we're in a world where everything is a priority, but some things will be more important, some priorities will be more important than others. So
it will be fascinating to see how the new PCCs engage with their existing chief constables, and how that plays out. The detail, the analysis, very much in the Policing Insight article. So do go to the Policing Insight for that level of detail. And Ian, I strongly suspect that we will return to this topic over the coming months, as we'll see how those new PCCs in particular make their presence felt, and indeed how those re-elected PCCs fine-tune perhaps some of their activities based on their experience in their first, or potentially their second, or even third terms. So Ian Wiggett, for the time being, thank you very much for that insight. More for listening to me.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.